press play when you're ready.
Ready.
Yep. How's it going? Okay. Hiya, my name is Joseph Lance, as you can see from my presentation, and today I'm going to be presenting on Greek myth in the modern era. So, Greek mythology has had a very large presence in our society ever since its foundation, pretty much. These stories have been told for more than 3,000, 4,000 years now, and they've remained special to us. Which brings me to the question, why are they so special? Why do we keep on revisiting these myths? Especially in our modern times. What's with all the movies? Like, we've all seen Hercules, the Disney one. Some of us may have seen Clash of the Titans. So why do these stories keep on being adapted? Well, I wanted to know why, so I analyzed these stories and some of these adaptations. And in this presentation, I will be telling you what I found. So first up, we're going to be discussing Heracles, aka Hercules. Now, almost everybody is familiar with the story of Heracles. He's the son of Zeus, blah, 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 you know. But what most people don't know is the true story of Heracles. The Greek Heracles is a very tragic figure. He is the son of Alcmene, the queen, and Zeus. And of course, you know who Zeus is. He was hounded his entire life by Hera. In fact, she sent snakes to strangle him in his bed when he was a toddler, as you can see from this picture here. And, well, he strangled that snake and survived. But all through his life, he was being tortured and hounded by Hera. In a fit of rage and hallucination, he ended up strangling his wife, Megara, and his 2 children. And he finally died when his 3rd wife gave him a poisoned cloak, which is a very interesting story where he basically shot a centaur. The centaur gave his wife a cloak that had been shot with this poison arrows that he shot at the centaur, and told her that it would make him love her more. And it did end up killing him. It's a very sad story. Now, in our time, Hercules has been a very prolific character. As I mentioned earlier, the Disney film has been a major adaptation in most of our lifetimes, as well as one with Dwayne Johnson. He's been portrayed by many famous actors besides Dwayne Johnson, like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the Disney Hercules is particularly interesting because this adaptation is very, very different from the original story. In this story, he's the son of Zeus and Hera, rather than Zeus and Alcmene. And he was raised by Amphitryon and Alcmene, who were farmers instead of a king and a queen. And rather than just going through his life being sad all the time, this Hercules strives to do the best he can to be a hero and to return to his place on Mount Olympus with his parents. Our next hero we'll be discussing, our next myth, is the myth of Perseus and Andromeda. And Perseus is a very Hercules-like figure in that he's also, in fact, Hercules' half-brother and grandfather. I know that sounds kind of weird, but Perseus is also a son of Zeus, and he's Alcmene's father. And most people will probably be familiar with Perseus from his depiction in the Clash of the Titans film series. This is a lovely painting depicting Perseus, made in the Renaissance, depicting Perseus killing Cetus, the sea monster, with the head of the Gorgon Medusa right there, and then there is Andromeda about to be eaten by Cetus. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, he's the son of Zeus and Danae, the daughter of King Acrisius of Argos. And Perseus, his mom was going to be married to the brother of the guy that had saved them when they were chucked into the sea by King Acrisius, but he didn't like the guy. So the guy, whose name is Polydictes, told Perseus to go cut off the head of Medusa to save his mother as a wedding present, pretty much. And on the way back, he never really did give the head of Medusa back, because he saw some random hot lady. That random hot lady happened to be the Princess Andromeda of Ethiopia, and he saved her and married her, and he had a very interesting life. where he founded cities. Became the grandfather of Hercules, and he also ended up abandoning Andromeda, who ended up marrying Dionysus, the god of wine. It's a really interesting story. In our modern times, Perseus has not been adapted nearly as much as Hercules, but he has been adapted a little bit, as you can see from the Clash of the Titans films. Now these films, and their subsequent sequels, are very different from the original stories. They have the basic bones of the story. Perseus saves Andromeda from a sea monster. But in the movies, they changed the sea monster Cetus to being the Kraken of Norse mythology. And they also include the monster Calibus. And what's more interesting, in the old one, Perseus still has pretty much the old where he respects the gods and he loves the gods very much. But in the new ones are very interesting because in these ones, Perseus hates the gods and pretty much wants to see them gone. So it's a very, very interesting adaptation. And they're both still pretty good, but they're very interesting and very different from the original story. Finally, we'll be discussing Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which I know most of you will be familiar with. In the mid-2000s, the author/history teacher Rick Riordan released a series of novels aiming to help teens learn Greek mythology. This all started when he was telling his kids Greek mythology, but he had to find a way to do it without them getting bored, so he told them about this boy named Percy that basically was the son of Poseidon, and he didn't know it, and he had to save the world from the Titan Kronos. Now, Percy Jackson is a very, very fun and surprisingly accurate way to blend in the mythology with humorous narrative and a fun story. Now, Percy, as I mentioned earlier, discovers that he's a demigod and the son of Poseidon, and he's taken to a camp called Camp Half-Blood that protects him and other demigods like him. And while he's at this camp, he goes on many adventures to basically save the world from the Titan Kronos, the father of Zeus. And on the way, he learns more about mythology, which helps him in turn pretty much save the world. Rick Riordan later expanded on this original series of 5 novels with several other series. One about Greeks and Romans fighting, one about Apollo being turned into a mortal by his father Zeus because he did something stupid again, which if you know Greek mythology, you know Apollo was always doing something stupid. And lastly, a series that has only a few connections with Percy Jackson, a series about Egyptian mythology called the Cain Chronicles, but we won't go into that much here. Anyway, I stated at the beginning that Greek mythology has a massive presence in our society, and every year more and more adaptations are being released of myths. We think about 300 more Hercules movies, gods of the Greek world, lots of different movies and adaptations. And one thing I found interesting while studying up on Greek history again, or Greek mythology again, and reading these different and watching these different adaptations, is that while these stories may have massive deviations, the bones of the story are still there. And personally, I think the reason that we keep on visiting these stories, and even though they may be different from adaptation to adaptation, is they become a wonderful teaching tool, teaching different lessons. If we look at the Hercules film from 1997, the Disney animated one, it teaches us a lesson about not giving up. And although you may be a misfit like Hercules is at the beginning of the film, you can accomplish great things. I mean, look what he did. He defeated the Titans, he saved Megara, and he lived happily ever after with her and accomplished all of his goals and ended up realizing that maybe he didn't need to be a god. Maybe he just needed to settle down and live life the way it is. And, I was just studying these. It makes me grateful that we still have these stories to look back to and to learn to. And I look forward to more and more adaptations as the years come and learning what we can from those. Thank you for this opportunity, and I guess enjoy your Greek mythology in the future.